Hi, Sankari. Thank you for joining me on the show. It's really a pleasure to be catching up with you again. I think we met last at the India Kitchen Congress, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me for this podcast. It's really exciting to connect with you again. So,
Thank you. Sankari, you said at one place that NAADI is empowering manufacturers to transition from the outdated practice of recording traceability information on paper. What does this mean? Where's the problem here?
so there's a shift basically happening. So, if you take the entire furniture industry as a whole, it is growing, it is booming. If you take the Indian market, it is again growing at a very fast pace. And people are moving towards, they're tending towards modular furniture, kitchens. So that is how they are seeing things. But if you see, predominantly 90% of the industry is still unorganized. Only say 10% of the industry is organized, 90% still remains that way. They are tending towards organizing, but I would say still they are fairly unorganized. So, what is happening here is uh, the manufacturing essentially is done in a centralized unit called a factory, and
Hmm.
all the materials or the components are brought here to the installation place where it is getting installed. So there's a separation of manufacturing happening in a factory and the installation happening in the site. So this is fairly a new concept for everybody to understand, and there could be a lot of chaos that could happen because of this. So there are a few production processes that happen in the factory, and then there are multiple orders getting manufactured. If you take a factory as a unit, it is profit driven, so it can't just do one order. They have their investment on machines, they have the investment on the space, and they have time, and they have people who are doing it. So they are driven by profit. So if they ultimately will want to maximize their production by adding more orders, more volume to production. So when there are multiple orders that are going into production, and then essentially we are breaking that and bringing one particular order back to the installation site, we are doing the installation. This can cause a lot of chaos. So it could be like we are missing out a few components when we are transporting. There is always a mixing of components that is happening in the factory. So this is a start point where we need to look at it at a larger picture and try to bring in more organization into our manufacturing and our process.
You mean to say that when somebody orders a kitchen,
Yes.
which is an amalgamation of hundreds and hundreds of pieces, and I think it usually gets shipped in a knockdown fashion.
Yes.
All, and at the time of assembling, all those are put together.
Yes.
And so you think there's a gap over here that pieces, all the pieces might not have come, or the wrong pieces might have come, the wrong sizes or the colors?
There are a lot of cases. The first point is there is no proper identification of what parts goes to which order. So once if that is established, even then there could be a mix-up in terms of panels, because all our panels essentially, if you take a single order, that could be it could consist of 500, 600 panels, and we don't know, all of them come with different materials, different finishes, different sizes. We don't know whether there is a mix up, whether something goes missing, and we don't know whether the quality assurance is there, whether everything is tested for quality. And we also don't know whether they are brought to the right site. There could be a scenario where they are going to the wrong site,
Okay.
and those things can also happen. In fact, they are the main pinpoints.
There's another interesting pain point that I have noticed is that you have a number of drawers coming into your kitchen. And it happened with me that I got all the drawers taken out because there was some repair work required. And when the drawers were being put back, I think they got all mixed up.
Yeah.
And the draws just wouldn't go in.
Exactly.
So I'm sure that would also be happening when all the similar looking panels come and they get fitted into the wrong place.
Yes, that could also happen because they don't know how to do it right. There is no guidance, there is no labeling, whether it is left panel, right panel. So all
Yeah.
these things can help with the organization. And also that we have to segregate and pack it in the right way so that when you're doing the installation, it is easy for them to do it. So if you take a unit, then it is always, even if it is knocked down, and if it is packed together, it is always easy to break it open and do the installation.
So how are you doing this? What is NAADI? What is NAADI doing?
So NAADI is technically nothing but an MES. So we help with the factories to organize them better. It is a manufacturing execution system. So if you are a factory owner and you would want to know what is happening in the factory right now, do you have the right data to know what is happening in the factory? You either should be in the factory or you are relying on somebody who's in the factory for that information. So even if you call that person, he is going to go around the factory with a paper, a pencil. He's going to ask 10 different people on the status of something that is happening in the factory. And he's going to make a phone call back to you and say that this is what is happening today. And these are the orders for which these things are complete. So we are breaking that down. We are saying that you can look at the status in a laptop or your phone and get an overview of what is happening in the factory. Don't rely on somebody for some information which need not be accurate. So I want to make a decision. I want to think whether I want to buy a new machine or I want to understand the number of rejections that are happening in the factory. The main thing is to have the data. So that is where the gap is. So we collect data at the right intervals. We translate that data and give it back to the user in the way he wants to see it so that he can make the right decisions for the factory.
You said you collect the data. Who collects the data? How is it done? How is the data collection done so that it becomes visible on the device?
So usually data collection, to do the data collection, first step is to do an identification for that particular part. So we place something called as a barcode or a QR code for every panel that goes into production. So
Okay.
that is the first step. So that we give an identity, a very, very unique identity to the panel. And then that panel is tracked at every station where it moves to through a scanner and a interface. So
So
that
you
is,
mean, sorry, but you mean to say that as soon as a factory receives its inventory of supply of panels, they get identified there
so
with a barcode?
basically they get the raw materials, and then when the first process starts, then henceforth everything is tracked basically. So there is a tracking mechanism at every point, and then once that is complete, the operator either manually tracks it, or if they have some advanced machines like a beam saw or a CNC,
Yeah.
we also do advanced integrations where we are talking to the machines directly and taking the information. So in that case, it completely eliminates the need for the operator to scan and take the data.
So NADI essentially is identifying all the raw materials that are there. So that I would say is a kind of an inventory management that you are doing.
So it is
And
not.
you're also tracking where each part is going.
So inventory is technically to see account for your stock. Here it is work in progress that we are
Yeah.
tracking.
Yes.
Basically, at every point of production, how is the progress happening and how the movement is happening between points is exactly what we are tracking. So if your customer technically places an order to the factory and he's questioning you, like, what is the progress in my order of my order? And it has say 500, 600 panels that have gone into production. Right now, just by looking at NAADI, you'll be able to say, okay, so out of 500, 100 has completed cutting. It is sitting in drilling pipeline. So we kind of know when it is going to go towards packing, dispatch, and when it is going to go for installation. So this kind of visibility is given only through a system like this.
I see. So even this packing and dispatch is also taken care of
Yes.
in MES.
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's a fairly comprehensive software that you have, right from the inward movement of the raw material right till the customer's site. You are actually tracking the entire project from raw material stage to the finished stage, right?
Yes.
So if you are tracking, how does this help in optimizing things? Do you have any solution which helps to optimize the production cost also?
So the first thing is the visibility. Right now, we are in a very nascent stage, the industry itself, where there is no data to take decisions or even to optimize. Optimize is the second step.
Mhm.
Do we have the data? Like, do we know whether my beam saw, if I've invested in a beam saw to do the cutting, is it functioning properly today? It can cut so many number of boards in one shift. Is it really doing it or not?
Okay.
So only if I have the data, I'll be able to optimize, plan, and take decisions. So the first step is to bring the data to visibility. That is exactly what we are doing. Based on this data, either the production manager or someone who is responsible for organizing the floor is able to set targets for the operator or for a particular operation, saying that say 500 parts or 500 boards or 100 boards has to be cut today. So they can place targets or they can understand the rejection pattern that is happening. They can do a root cause analysis on rejections based on the reasons for rejections, and they can take informed decisions, saying that if a lot of rejections are happening in my edge band station, so we know that there is some problem there. They can do a deep dive into the problem and solve it. That will solve a lot of inefficiency. Another thing is quality control. There is no assurance generally whether quality control is done or not. Through a systemized way of doing it, digitally doing it, we are 100% sure that nothing moves to packing and dispatch without having a proper quality control process. So we are able to reject it and then ensure that only the right products are then moved towards packing and dispatch. This assurance is given through a system.
How do you identify the um, defective products or the products which are not of the right quality? How is that done?
So basically, we defects are identified manually. There is a QC inspector who does the manual check, and they are recorded digitally, so that we are able to have the count or accountability in terms of rejections. So and we also know which pipeline it has to go and sit next, the rejected panels, or if they have to be scrapped and they have to be reproduced. We kind of have a value of number of reproductions. So if you're reproducing so many n number of panels in a month because of some issue, some defect, you would want to know the value associated with it as well. So that becomes an important metric for someone like a factory owner who wants to streamline the process. So these kind of data that we collect, simple data collection, becomes very important for someone to take informed decisions.
From my limited knowledge about furniture manufacturing, I would like to go a bit further back. That means the point at which the factory receives the order. Usually, the designer would have created a 3D or a CAD design or a 3D design with a rendering and a bill of materials, which the manufacturer would have received. So what happens at that point? How do you take over that data?
For us, technically, an order that is placed in production is nothing but an order which is associated with a customer. Customer can be anybody. It could be a B2B entity. It could be an end customer who wants to get something done. And then there is technically a bill of material or a cut list, what we call in simpler terms, that gets added to this order.
What's the cut list?
A cut list is a simple list of n number of panels to be produced for that order, with details like dimensions, your finish, your grain information. So it is a simple information that is given to the factory to say that I want this list to be manufactured for this particular order. So this list is then uploaded in the system, and henceforth we start tracking. After that, if the cut list has, say, 1,000 panels to be tracked for a particular order, we ensure that the entire thing is tracked till dispatch.
That sounds very intricate. I mean, right from step one, when the order comes into the factory, till the clients, you are managing the entire operation. Okay. So, NAADI, this MES that you mentioned, what does NAADI mean? It's a very unusual name.
So, if somebody is sick, what do they say in Ayurveda? They say just check his nadi, whether it is fine or not. So, we catch the pulse of the factory.
Oh, okay. That's what NAADI is doing. As simple as that, getting the pulse of the factory.
Exactly.
But how do you know all this? I mean, what kind of an experience have you got? Have you worked in the factory yourself?
So, a little bit about myself. I mean, I'm an engineer with a fair bit of IT experience. So, I have worked abroad and in India. So, when we decided to be, doing something on our own, and specifically in India, we wanted to get into core manufacturing. So, which is basically how we started our factory called as Inch Factory in Bangalore. So a decade ago, when we started this factory, it was a big manufacturing hub for all the startups that were coming up at that time, like your Home Lane, Design Cafe, Urban Ladder, Live Space. So all of them who were coming up at that period, their first orders were processed through our factory.
So you were like a kind of a cloud kitchen for these companies.
That was what was happening, and so we played a big part in streamlining their design to manufacturing. And still, when we had a lot of inflow of orders, managing from multiple clients in a single place caused a lot of issues. So it was like where I was in IT digitalizing banks, and when we moved into core manufacturing, it was like taking 100 steps back.
Okay, right.
Where we felt that people were trying to identify panels, searching for panels, and it was a bit of a chaos.
You chose to jump into an unorganized sector.
Yes, it was completely unorganized, at least at that time. So everybody were trying to find solution on how to streamline the entire thing. So that was what was happening then. There was a lot of chaos. There was a lot of missing items. There were mismatched panels sent to the wrong location, and we had no clue, no data on what is happening in the factory.
When did you start Inch Factory?
It was around 2013 time.
Okay, good 10 years back.
Yes. So when this was started, so that due to that chaos, what we decided to do was to streamline everything through technology. So we picked up one problem at a time and tried to solve it through technology, which was making a lot of impact. So if you take 5 years after we tried to do things through technology, uh, there was a lot of improvement, lot of visibility, lot of ways in which we could manage things in a better way. And it became more like a model for a paperless factory. So
Oh,
anybody comes and sees the factory, they did not find any paper in the factory. They felt it was one step ahead of what the factories were at that point of time. So that was a good experience, a start point for us. And immediately after that, there was COVID, and that was the right time for us to conceptualize NAADI, where we felt that it is not only us who need the solution. There are a lot of people who are still struggling with the same problems. And if we want to conceptualize it as a product,
hmm.
to consider all the different scenarios, all the different use cases. They might be having different design tools, they might be having a different set of machinery, they might be having a different business process,
Yeah.
different manufacturing process. So we did have a deep dive understanding. We did meet up with a few of our friends or a few of the fellow people who had factories. And with that input, we started to conceptualize a product. And that was how NAADI was created. It was born during the COVID period.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Tell me one thing. While you were busy transforming your factory into a paperless operation, did you face a challenge in terms of acceptance by the workers, the operators? After all, they need to be digitally comfortable. They need to be happy and able to operate on the computer or on a device. These machine operators, all the people who are working in the factory, was there a challenge there?
There is always a challenge. There is still a challenge when you try to digitalize a place like a factory. The first thing that people feel is where they feel insecure because
Yeah.
they feel systems are going to replace them. So that is the first thing that comes to their mind. They're very, very insecure. So that is not the case. That is not, we are not here to replace anybody. We are trying to assist them. So rather it has to be considered and seen from that point of view. We are trying to assist the workers. It becomes simpler for them. Initially, it could be a challenge to do things, but as you know, as months progressed, as years progressed, it became a norm, and they couldn't break out of it. So if they don't do something, they don't I mean they cannot work without that kind of system in place. So they were very, very comfortable with it, and they were finding it very, very helpful to do their daily operations. So it is like an assistance for them basically.
Well, it's almost like an accountant who tries to work without a computer. He can't work.
He
He
can't.
can't.
Initial resistance, definitely it was there, and it is still there, I feel, because as such technology in a factory is still a new concept. Not everybody are open towards it.
Okay.
So that is some it's one of the challenges that we face.
No, but you see, more than the workers, isn't it the entrepreneur himself who needs to be open to technology because it has to come from the top?
Yes. So
Uh,
of
so,
course,
is it, are they there? Are they interested to take on technology? Do you think they are looking forward to such solutions?
obviously when there are problems coming up, they do look for solutions. But is everybody in that line? I don't know. We are not yet there. We are still in the nascent time frame where we are slightly ahead with our product, and people are still, thinking about that. What I feel is, as a first set of our clients for NADI, where somebody whom I call early adopters who are open to explore and experiment technology. Most of our early clients that, or the people that whom we approach to are somebody who is open to technology. They feel that I want to try something to solve my problems in a factory. So
Yeah.
those are the people whom we approach, and we try to implement NADI in their factory. Once it's a success, it is always a model factory to many others. We tell them this factory has been using NADI for quite some time, and they're very happy with it. They take feedback from them, or if they are open to showing their factory, they come and see how systems have streamlined their entire process. And it is how the information passes henceforth from them. So always we try to target the early adopters who are open for technology.
So I think it must be a typical cost versus benefit proposition that entrepreneurs are faced with. I mean, what's the cost of automation going to be, digitalization going to be, versus what benefits, immediate and midterm benefits that are going to accrue? So, are these benefits visible outright? How easy is it for the entrepreneur to judge this?
So, if you take any traditional MES system, it's not that there are no MES systems. There are MES systems in place. If you take a very traditional MES system, which is used abroad in a very large factory, it is quite expensive to use an MES system, and it is very intensive to feed in a data to retrieve something. It is very traditional. It is done in a very traditional way, and the implementation cycle itself is very long. So they take up to 9 months, 1 year to do the entire implementation in a factory. And for
Okay.
them to see that ROI, it takes that much time. Investment is also huge. There is a lot of training that is required, a lot of implementation, configuration for that particular factory is required. So we are trying to break all of that. So for us, it is on subscription. It's a SaaS product. All you have to do is have a Wi-Fi in your factory. Just open our application and use the right credentials for the user uses the right credentials and he has the access to the organization. He has to start working. So it is a SaaS-based product, which is very easy and simple to start off with. Our implementation cycle is very short, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So if you are starting the implementation, by the third week, all your orders are passing through NAADI and they're able to visualize the change immediately. So there is no waiting time for them to see any change. Immediately, as such, they are able to see the difference very quickly. And so that is an advantage. And another advantage that we have is our UI. Basically, we have kept in mind the users who are going to use the application. We understand that in India, Indian factories, most of the people who work in a factory are unskilled. They don't
Mhm.
come with the right kind of education to read or to understand something in a way that we expect a normal person, normal
Right.
accountant to do. So
Right.
we have kept it very fairly simple, where we show only the numbers or colors to them, saying the progress to them, just a scan without a lot of interaction with the application. So we've kept it very simple, and we've empathized with the user who's going to use it in the factory. So it is very simple for him to use and start using it. He starts using it in a day or two. So
Okay.
our implementation cycles are fairly short, and within a matter of 3 weeks, it is up and running. And so that is a very good advantage that we have.
Do you offer any language options as well?
Right now, no. Since I don't think that is a problem, because as I said, most of it is all visual and it's all numbers and it is only scanning. We can think of offering language options going forward also.
Because I think since our furniture industry is so diversified, we've got huge, vast geographies, and operators are located in deep inside the country,
Yes,
where language and dialects change with every 100 kilometers.
that could be of a great help. We are considering that as well.
But tell me, Sankari, what is the state of the industry at the moment, of the furniture industry, if we were to talk about? Mm. Uh, how is furniture manufacturing transforming towards being organized?
So as I told you, predominantly we are still currently unorganized. We are tending towards organizing ourselves. So what is happening is a fast industrialization that is happening. A lot of factories are coming up, a lot of machines are getting added to the factory, and people are entering this space thinking that they have a lot of opportunities in this segment. So with that coming into picture, we need to consider organizing the factories. So it's not just about adding machines or just processing a number of orders. If you want, if you're passionate about organizing a factory, you would need the help of technology. So this will help you to streamline the workflow in the factory, ensure that everything is happening one after the other, and everything is tracked and traced. So you also get an insight in terms of your machine performance, your operator performance, and it allows you more control in the factory. So
Hmm.
if you take the entire industry, considering it being unorganized, if they are tending towards organizing themselves, then the first step would be to take this as a solution for their issue.
Right, right. So you said that a number of factories are coming up. What are normally their scales? Are they small operations or large size factories are also coming? What do you see more?
Predominantly, it's a small and medium-sized enterprises. That is what I see, because our machinery that we sell here also, it is suitable for a small and medium-sized enterprise. So it is not a very large factory. I don't see a lot of large factories. It's predominantly small and medium-sized enterprises, and our product caters very well to all segments. Like if it's a large factory, it will work well. If they have multiple locations, factories in multiple locations, that
Mm-hmm.
works well. They're going to consolidate everything and see it in a single screen. So
Okay.
that option is also there. Or if it's a very small factory, say if he's just a small carpenter who wants to start a factory, he's
Mm-hmm.
got a panel saw and he wants to use NAADI. He wants to use a barcoding labeling system for his factory, and he
Yeah.
wants to ensure packing is happening. So even for somebody like that,
Okay.
our product works very well. In fact, that is one of our vision, that we want to give it even to the smallest of small factories, and also to cater to different types of factories that are coming.
Oh, then I see that you are actually empowering the artisan, the carpenter actually,
Who's,
and encouraging him to become an entrepreneur.
yes.
Because if he is able to organize himself and reduce his costs, and that encourages him to think big, his customer, his B2B customer also feels more confident if he sees this small supplier digitally empowered.
Yes, that adds a lot of value. If especially most of our customers are doing B2B, where their customers are very happy to receive orders from the factory, which are very neat looking. They're labeled. They have their customer logo in them, which is going to improve their brand value. And it is problem free. Errors are not there. It is not error prone. So all those things adds a lot of trust to the
Yeah.
person who's doing the production in the factory. So it adds value basically.
You have to take me to one of your customers' factories. I would love to see how
Definitely.
how more organized they have become, how neat and clean. My vision of a furniture factory is that it is a lot of chaos, and you have to actually find your piece. Because I remember, hang on, I had placed an order for a unit, a shoe rack, and the manufacturer invited me to see the thing before, and we went deep inside the warehouse of that factory in a dusty place, and then that person tried to identify which was my unit. And then, so I was really I did not come away a very happy customer seeing the state of the factory. Of course, the unit that was delivered to my place was fine. But had I first judged that person on the basis of the factory, I would have not placed that order.
So that is our mindset. I think we should see our factories in a different light, and also we should enable the people who are working in the factory with a lot of things like what we are discussing currently.
Absolutely, absolutely. That brings me to one more issue, that in India, at the worker level, I feel that since everything is moving towards digitalization. In fact, our lives as individuals are highly digitalized. We place an order, we track it on our mobile phones, we call a taxi, and we take an appointment. We call a carpenter, we track where he's. So I think at the worker level also, a lot of training needs to be done so that they are not struck with technology when they take up a job, while they're apprentices or even while they are undergoing training at the ITIs or what have you. That's a place where the digital training should be given. I don't know if it's happening, but I'm sure that will make a huge difference to adoption.
Definitely. What I see is one thing as an add-on point is people are prone to technology early on. So if you take any worker in the factory, he's going to have a WhatsApp. So nobody trained him how to use a WhatsApp. And
Yeah.
the application is intuitive enough to allow him to learn by himself. Nobody had gave him the training. So
Hmm.
we want to bring our app to that level. On the second level of training, we are associated with organizations like FFSC, where currently there was a Center of Excellence opened in Hyderabad.
Hyderabad, right?
We did put up our system saying that we want people as an initiative to train people, like whenever they're getting trained to work on machines and other tools, we say this has to be trained, or they have to at least have an idea of how to use digital systems along with the machinery. So that
Hmm.
was initiative that we've taken. So going forward, I think that training for digital technology, how to use them in the factory, is very, very important.
So going forward, how do you see growth at NAADI? How is business growing? Are you going to become a very large organization?
So yeah, we have built ourselves well, and we have a wonderful team which does works on new products, which does implementations across India. So we have clients pan India. So we have clients starting from Kerala to uh, Jaipur in the
Wow.
remotest of locations. So we have a wonderful implementation team which goes there, does the training for the factories. Since we ourselves are from this industry,
Yeah.
we consider this as our ecosystem. We take continuous inputs from the factories that we implement our product in,
Hmm. Hmm.
from the machine manufacturers, from the material suppliers. We are very closely associated with them. We feel like a family. We take a lot of inputs, insights from them, and it has helped us to build a product in the right way so that we are very, very connected with our ecosystem. So that is a strong point that we see as a growth opportunity right now. We've placed ourselves well with the batch one production, where we are focusing on panel processing, and where the size of the batch is one. Every order is different from the other. But going forward, we are moving into the batch production tracking as well.
Okay.
Uh, and also the components could be of different nature, where we can have some furniture can come together with metal, glass, upholstery, etc. So we are seeing a lot of opportunity in that side as well, where they are trying to organize that as well. That still is unorganized. So since we have come from this background, and we have streamlined the panel processing for batch one, we also see a lot of opportunity in the other side of it, where batch production is happening, and tracking for solid wood or metal or glass or upholstery is also a need of the hour. So we are slowly venturing to understand their pain points and to build products for them as well. So that is what we are looking at in the future. And we will continuously add products for panel processing as well.
Well, Sankari, I think your customers must be loving you. So much empathy that you have towards them. Actually putting yourself in their shoes. Why putting them? You were wearing those shoes 10 years back as manufacturers yourself.
That
But
is
the way you are ecosystem or a family approach that you have, I think that's really wonderful and a very nice way of lifting the entire industry along as you go along.
yeah.
So, Sankari, I congratulate you and I really wish you all the best.
Thank you, Deepak.
And Of course, I'll take you up on that. You have to show me around one of your customers.
Definitely, I'll come over to Delhi and then I'll take you to the factories.
See you again soon.
See you. Thank you for having me over, and it was wonderful talking to you.